Three true tales of women who thought they were doing something ordinary, ordering food, answering a late knock, taking a last run, and found themselves face to face with danger. One of them looked out and saw the delivery person still standing in her yard. That image never left her. These are true accounts told in first person by women who thought they were safe. I'm not an expert. I'm not preaching. I'm just telling you what happened to me and what happened to two other women I know, because ordinary choices made us vulnerable in ways none of us expected. If something here hits close to home, stay with me. This matters. Story 1. The Wrong Kind of Welcome. I was working a closing shift at a small convenience store in a rural stretch where the road turns to dirt and the houses sit back from the street like people hiding from the world. It was late, well past midnight, and I was tired in the way only a closing shift can make you tired. A low, steady exhaustion, like your bones have decided they are finished for the day. I ordered a pizza. It felt indulgent and harmless. The place I called was no chain, just a local joint whose number I'd saved on my phone after too many hungry nights. The voice on the other end was slow and flat, like a record skipping a groove, and gave me directions in a monotone that somehow left out landmarks and kept repeating the same vague turns. Keep going down the dirt. You'll see the third mailbox. Turn in. Drive to the house. The driveway was narrower than I expected. The trees leaned in close, scraping the roof of my car, and the only light came from the moon and the dull yellow of my dashboard. When I pulled in, the house looked like the kind people put in photographs of haunted places. Peeling paint, a porch sagging to one side, and a single window dim with the soft, warm glow of an old lamp. There was a smell that hit me before I even got out of the car, a stale, heavy thing, not quite rot, not quite smoke, something old and settled into wood and fabric. A record player, somewhere inside, was playing something slow. It had that hiss, the kind of music that belongs to another era. It made the night feel wrong in a way I couldn't name. I walked up to the door and knocked. There was no answering voice, only the soft sound of music and the creak of an old house listening. The door opened a crack, and a face appeared in the sliver of light, a quarter of a face at most, cheekbone and one eye, like someone had stuck a photograph through a gap. He looked older than I expected. His expression was nothing, calm, almost rehearsed. He told me to step inside to the kitchen. At the time, I told myself there must be an easier explanation. Maybe the phone got confusing. Maybe he was hard of hearing. He invited me, not asked. His voice went from flat to suddenly soft, like someone adding syrup to an already strange cup. I felt the word inside press against me.
There was another movement then, faint, behind him, like a body swaying to the record player's slow rhythm. For a second, I thought it was someone dancing. The shape moved in the darkness of the hallway, a silhouette bending at odd angles, making me think of outdated dolls in a shop window. The doorway offered a glimpse, then it closed like a camera shutter. My guts told me to close my own shutter and walk away. I remember thinking the strangest, smallest things in that moment, the texture of the pizza box in my hand, the way my boots felt against a cracked step, the smell of metal on my palms. I told him I'd just leave it on the porch. His hand, just visible, paused on the frame like he wanted me to step forward. He asked again, softer this time, and the music swelled in my ears like someone turning up the volume of a bad dream. I backed up without turning my back on the door. I walked to my car, and I started it with my hand shaking enough that I had to hold the key tighter. I looked in the rear view, and the house sat there, ordinary and enormous, with that thin sliver of face still watching the driveway, like he'd been waiting for me all along. After that night, I stopped going inside to deliver or pick up things. I stopped answering late-night calls when I was the only one at home. The nightmares lasted longer than they should have. Sometimes I'd wake up convinced I could hear that vinyl hiss. People told me I overreacted. Friends asked why I hadn't just left the box and drove away sooner. But the truth is, at the time, the invitation was small. It was just a voice and a cracked door. It was ordinary. That's the part that still gives me chills. The way ordinary sounds can hide a door that opens into something you didn't plan for. It taught me a rule I now follow without thinking. Don't step inside someone's home for a delivery. If the person cannot or will not meet you outside, you leave and you go. That rule has no drama, but it has kept me safe. If this is the kind of real, raw stuff you want to hear more of, and you want a place where we talk about close calls and what they taught us, hit subscribe and stay with us. I promise to keep it honest. Story 2. The Yard Watcher. My name is Alina. I worked late shifts doing bike deliveries through a small app that paid by the night and demanded an appetite for cold air and streets with no names. College towns at 2 in the morning have a particular smell. Fumes from kitchens, the faint perfume of someone on a night out, and the electric hum of campus lighting that does its best to pretend the night isn't lonely. This was a place I knew well, a block of old dorm houses and rental places, porch lights that flickered, and a narrow path cut between yards that people used as a shortcut. I knew which houses were quiet and which ones had roommates up at odd hours. The app showed the address as dorm house near the quad, and the note said, "Knock loud," which I did.
I knocked like someone knocking on an exam room, fast and sharp. No answer. The house was dark. The only visible sign of life was the glow of a laptop through one window, and even that felt distant. I knocked again and called out louder, repeating the order and the apartment number. I remember thinking weirdly about how silly this was. How many times had I knocked on doors in pajama pants and been waved in? How often had the stranger inside been just a person who forgot their keys? I turned to lock my bike in place, and then I saw him. He was across the street, crouched behind a low bush in someone's yard. At first I thought he was a trick of the street lamp, the way shadows bend and turn in the wrong way. Then I noticed the way his head tilted, how he watched me like someone watching a show. He didn't move to the street. He didn't call out. He just watched. My skin tightened. Part of me wanted to keep my laugh and knock louder, to draw attention, as if presence were armor. I kept knocking, harder now, on principle, on impulse, on that small human hope that more noise means less danger. A roommate finally came to the door. She unlocked it slow, half asleep, hair like a tumbleweed from a nap. I handed her the order and tried to smile like everything was normal. She reached for the food and I told her to have a good night without letting the words sound like anything but business. Then the watcher moved. He sprang up from behind the bush and ran in my direction. Everything sped up. There's a part of your brain that becomes a camera and keeps recording even as everything else blurs. I pushed off my bike, legs burning with a surge of speed I didn't know I had left, pedaling like the path between me and safety was a measuring tape that had to keep stretching. The watcher was gaining. He was closer than I thought possible. The sound of his feet on gravel, a quick, ugly rhythm. He reached for my backpack. He jabbed at my shoulder. A hand, some hands, grabbed for me. I didn't stop to think strategy. I remembered 1,000 small things. How to balance, how to accelerate out of a turn without skidding, how to keep breathing through the pain. I took the trail I knew that cut behind the houses, a narrow ribbon between trees that went toward the lit main road. The path was pitch dark in places, roots and potholes waiting, but that night it was my only route. I pedaled until my legs burned and my lungs burned and the muscles in my jaw ached from gripping so hard. I didn't look back until the streetlights of the main road came into view. Only then did I allow myself to breathe. Afterward, the police came and took statements. There was no immediate capture. The app support sent a canned message and a check for a fraction of what my bike and phone were worth if they'd been damaged. I filed reports. I told the company I couldn't do that shift anymore. The worst of it, though, wasn't the chase or the possible bruises.
It was the knowing that someone had been watching ordinary people come and go, like a spectator at a play. The person I was that night, the girl who knocked on dark doors for extra cash, hasn't fully come back. I changed the hours I worked. I stopped taking assignments that left me alone in dark pockets of the city. I started telling someone my ETA, even for small jobs. I don't say any of that to shame anyone who takes those shifts. I know why people do them. I'm sharing because the watcher's silhouette in my memory is a reminder that routine choices, taking a night shift, knocking on a dark house, can turn into a near miss faster than you expect. Story 3. The pickup that wasn't a pickup. I was a delivery driver for a food app. I liked the rhythm of it at first. The small, controlled solitude, the way I could map the city in my head by the orders I took. I was careful, or so I thought. I preferred contactless deliveries when I could, left food on porches and went. But some orders required contact. The app would pop a note, "Contact delivery, please go to the door." I took one such order late on a weekday, a dead-end road I did not know. The address led to a stretch where the houses were few and spaced out, and a convenience store twice the distance from the home sat dark. The house on the app's pin showed as vacant. Not abandoned, but quiet. No cars in the driveway, no light. The note said something unhelpful like, "I'll come out," then followed with a series of small messages. "I'm outside. I see you. Please ring." The last message arrived after I had already parked near the end of the cul-de-sac and unlocked the back of my car. The street was too quiet to be reassuring. When I walked to the house, I noticed my tires were low on air. I remember this now because it's one of the ordinary details my mind clings to when it replays that night. It felt like a small betrayal. The car that helped me escape suddenly felt vulnerable, like a boat with a slow leak. I knocked on the door. No one answered. I left the food on the porch and took a step back to tap it with my foot, as the app suggested when you can't get a face-to-face. My phone pinged. "I'm watching you." The text was specific. The house stayed dark behind the smudge of the porch light. At first, I thought the tires might be a coincidence. Maybe I'd hit something. Maybe it was a nail. I walked back to my car and reached down to check. And then I realized one of the tires hissed like a slow wind. I remembered being told about slashed tires like they belonged to dark movies, and I tried not to let my brain go there. Reality, however, began to narrow into that specific possibility. My phone, my lifeline, buzzed again. The messages continued in a way that felt like a timeline being set. "Open your trunk. Come out. Step to the porch."
Keep your phone charged and accessible. Use app safety features when they exist, and consider having a quick way to call for help without fumbling through multiple screens. After an incident, seek help. Talk to friends, file reports, and if needed, connect with professionals who can help you process the emotional aftermath. I know people are quick to tell survivors what they should have done differently. I won't do that. Hindsight is tidy. Reality is messy. We made ordinary choices that had extraordinary consequences. Blaming ourselves does nothing to fix the past, but learning quietly from it can change the future. If any of these stories resonated with you, share your own in the comments, only if you feel safe doing so. Hearing from other women helps build a community that moves from fear to preparedness, from silence to shared strategy. If you found these stories meaningful, subscribe for more true accounts and practical safety conversations. And if you can, share this video with your daughter or a friend who works late. It might be the small nudge toward a precaution that keeps her safe. We aren't invincible. We are women making everyday choices, and sometimes the world reacts in ways we never saw coming. That doesn't make us weak. It makes the precautions we choose to take all the more powerful. Stay aware, trust your instincts, stay safe.